Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. The show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. You probably already know by clicking the title and seeing, but today we are celebrating 100 episodes of this podcast. We started out this podcast with the name Tiny Talks. We transitioned to the name Rewire to Inspire. We started by being very inconsistent and just posting very willy-nilly. We switched to 2 episodes a week in February of 2022. And here we are. It is the middle of February and we are celebrating 100 episodes of this podcast. I just wanted to start off this podcast by celebrating that milestone, celebrating that we got here, because a part of me in the beginning never thought that I would get here. I never thought this would be possible. I never thought that I would stick with it long enough, or that I had the ability to stick with something this long and for something to become this really deep into my heart. And I've developed such a passion for podcasting and for speaking and for just sharing through my voice based on my experiences and things that I've learned. And so I just want to say a big thank you from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you who take the time to tune in twice a week, to rate this show, to share this show, to provide feedback, to just do all the things that you guys don't have to do. But when you do them, it just makes my heart and my cup so full. And I just wanted to start off in a place of gratitude by also saying that Rewire to Inspire was in the top 200 charts for self-improvement podcasts in all of the month of January, which is just freaking amazing. I was on a call with Kevin from Next Level University, and he has been helping me with my podcast. It was our first call together. I learned a lot through them, just through listening to their show, by working with them. I am on their team, but it was my first time jumping on with Kevin. And he typed in my show and he said, "Did you know that you were in the top 200 charts for self-improvement?" And I was like, "No." And so that's just another reminder of why awareness and doing your research and digging is so important, because that just gave me so much momentum and energy and just inspiration to keep going, of knowing that it's making an impact and it's reaching people. January was by far the highest month of listens that Rewire to Inspire has ever had in the year and a half that I have been doing this podcast. So it's been a little bit of a longer introduction for you guys today, but I felt like it fits the theme of today. And how could I not jump on here and just not feel so excited and full of gratitude? I'm almost stumbling my words because I can't even believe that we've gotten here. And so just thank you. All the love from my heart to yours. Here's to another 100 episodes. You guys, the next 100 episodes, we are bringing guests in. I am in the process right now of kind of figuring out the guests that I want to have on this show. My biggest thing is I want them to be the most aligned and to provide the best and most authentic content for you guys to listen to. And so if you guys have any recommendations on guests that are trauma-informed, that have a passion for mental health, that have a passion for making a difference from that lens, I would love to connect with them. I would love to connect with you if that is you. So nonetheless, you guys, here's to another 100 episodes. Let's celebrate a virtual cheers to you guys. I have my coffee here in front of me. Cheers to you guys. So excited to be on this journey. And I think that in everything that I just said, it really does kind of nicely transition into what I want to talk about with you guys today. And that is really been the top 7 benefits that I landed on of why consistency is so important. So the top 7 benefits of being consistent. And I want us to just think about that word consistent for a minute, of what that means. From my perspective, consistency and being consistent basically means doing something either every day or in a pattern in which you can be consistent. So for me, it's 2 episodes a week at this podcast for long enough longevity that you can get new awareness or see results. And from there, continuing on that journey. So it's sticking with something long enough to actually see the compound of that, seeing the reverse of that, seeing results from that. And then from there, setting a new goal, stretching it even forward, even more so to continue on and being consistent for an infinite game. And so my first benefit of why being consistent is so important is because it allows you to truly show that you care and shows that you're valuable. And I think that that really does tie in nicely with today's episode of celebrating 100 episodes, because the thing is when you're consistent about something and with something, it shows that you're taking it seriously and shows that you care about it. It shows that you're willing to stick with it long enough and you have enough passion and grit and love for it to stick with it long enough to show what you believe in. The thing is when we're not consistent, it's hard for others to even take us seriously, yet alone for us to take ourselves seriously. Because if we're just kind of doing something here, now, and again, kind of willy-nilly when we feel like it, it's really hard to even develop that belief for ourselves that something is worth it, yet alone for other people to believe that it's worth it. And after a while, you'll start to lose faith, and you'll start to lose faith in yourself. Other people will start to lose faith in you. And I used to see this all the time in network marketing. So I still am a network marketer. I do still, use Young Living. I'm a brand ambassador with them. I support people on their journey of switching to toxin-free products. It is more in the cracks of my days now, but I've been on that journey for roughly 3 years, a little over 3 years now. And the thing is people would come into that business and they would kind of try it and they wouldn't make money. And then they would fall off and they'd stop doing it because they weren't making money. And I think the same thing happens in all areas of life. Most podcasts only make it to 21 episodes. That is not enough time put into something to show your seriousness, to show that you're, passionate about something, to develop the belief for yourself. And so consistency and being consistent shows your value, and it shows that you care. And that's one of the beautiful benefits of it. It shows that you're valuable. If this was just my 5th episode, you'd probably have less trust and less, connection and chemistry with me as we do now 100 episodes in, because it shows that I will not miss. I've made that promise. I hold that value. I hold that trust there that I will upload an episode every single Tuesday and Thursday. That is my promise. And if I were to miss that, I would lose, faith in myself. I would probably lose trust from some of you guys of, oh, it's Thursday and there's not a new episode. Like, what's going on? This is kind of weird. And it just kind of makes us turn a blind eye when someone's not consistent at something, and makes us feel like, oh, like they're just trying something new. Like, I'm sure it'll change soon. And so the first benefit of being consistent is that it shows that you truly care, and it shows that you're valuable and that you're willing to stick with something long enough to see the other side of that. The second benefit of being consistent is that consistency actually rewires your brain to anticipate that thing and to prepare for it. My podcast is all about rewiring the brain and how amazing and fascinating and beautiful, but yet complex our brain is. But the thing is when we do something consistently, you begin to create new neural pathways in your brain. And over time, your brain begins to change its structure, and then these habits become second nature. As we know, it takes roughly 18 to 100 days to create a new habit. They say the sweet spot is around day 66, roughly around 2 months into something. You're kind of creating that new habit. But the thing is our brain, once we do something enough, it becomes a habit. We don't have to think about it. It's just like brushing your teeth. If you shower before bed, if you're someone who works out in the morning, if you're, when we eat breakfast, like there's just certain things that have become habits because we've done them for so long that they become a new pathway in our brain to just know that, yeah, that's just what we do. That's our identity. That's, what else would you expect? And the thing is when we do that, our brain doesn't have to think so hard of, when are we going to do that thing? Because that's often when we get stressed out about something, is because we keep prolonging it. We're pushing it off. We have excuses. We don't really have a clear deadline. We don't have a reason to start. And so our brain just gets overwhelmed of what to do with this uncertainty and with this overload of information. And so what it does is it just tries to make it make sense, and it makes us anxious. And then we often think we're anxious about the thing, when in reality, we're actually anxious about the fact that we don't have a routine or a consistent approach to doing that thing. For me, for example, today's podcast episode is being recorded on Monday. I like to record all my episodes on Sunday. Unfortunately, something had happened with our house where we literally thought it was going to crumble in. For those of you who don't know, me and my partner bought a restoration property that we are flipping, potentially to live in, potentially to sell. We don't really know what we're doing with it yet, but we thought it was going to cave in. And so that to me became my number one priority at that time, and I had to go and deal with that. But so my brain has been like thinking and pacing all day today when I was at work of like, I got to go record my podcast. I have to go record my podcast, because that consistency and that pathway has been built in my brain that we record on Sundays. We do not miss. We keep that momentum going. And so that is one of the beauties of being consistent, is your brain will actually start to help you be more consistent, but you have to be willing to do the work in the beginning. You have to be willing to push through those times that you don't want to do the things and do them anyways. And then your brain will thank you by almost setting off an alarm in your brain of saying, hey, it's time to do this thing. Remember, like we said, we were going to do it. And then you're just more likely to follow through with that thing than if you just kind of said, I might work out later. I might go get groceries later. I might make my bed later. I might put that laundry away later. I might call that friend. It's just very up in the air, and our brain doesn't like that. And so consistency allows us to create new neural pathways in our brain and rewire it to just hone that identity and be consistent with something. Number 3, and probably my favorite, which is probably why my energy is so stinking high right now, is that consistency increases your self-confidence. Like, that is amazing if you just listen to that sentence. So self-confidence is basically a feeling of trust in one's ability, quality, or judgment. The more that we do things, the more your self-confidence will increase, because it's constantly getting new awareness to learn from. I can think back to the beginning of this journey, and my first couple episodes, you can just hear it in my voice that I am not confident. I'm going on there because I took a leap of faith. I knew I wanted to do it. I was willing to try, but you can definitely hear in my voice that I'm not confident. But as you kind of listen through to my podcast, and you kind of listen to episode 10, then you listen to episode 20, you listen to episode 30, through that repetition, self-confidence was being built because I was getting better at that thing. Think of something that you're really, really good at now. Maybe it's, something to do with art. Maybe it's your job. Maybe, maybe it's working with cars. Maybe it's building something. Maybe it's painting, sewing, whatever. In the beginning, you likely did not have the same level of confidence at that thing as you do now. And that's because over time, we build confidence, because when we get better at something, we feel more confident. That's why when we say something's out of our comfort zone, is because we know nothing about it. We don't have any knowledge or experience in doing that thing. But if we stick with something long enough and we're consistent through it, there's really no other way for this to go other than to grow ourselves, to get new awareness and to grow from that. What can happen, though, is when we embark on something new and we maybe don't get the result that we were hoping for or that we were wanting, it can cause us to shut down for a short period of time, and it can cause us to go internally. But the thing is we have to be willing to push through that. Because consistency can, in a way, push us backwards, like I said, if we're not able to get back up and try again. If on episode 20, I did a really crummy job and I said, you know what, I'm just a crappy podcaster and I don't want to do this anymore, I would have held that belief for the rest of my life, because I wasn't willing to take a leap to keep going and to keep getting better so that I could, build that self-confidence. So what are those things for you that you maybe haven't been as consistent with as you would like to, and you haven't gotten good at it, as good as it as you would like to, and that's actually taking a hit on your self-confidence? Stick with something long enough so that you can get good at it, so that you can have that belief in yourself and be like, yeah, like I'm kind of good at that thing. I'm pretty good at this. I've stuck with it long enough. And in no way do we ever become an expert at something, but we can always just become a little bit better. Number 4, consistency allows for I didn't really know how to phrase this one. I really meant more like less catching up, less stop and go, less need to start over. And so basically what I mean by this is let's say we go to the gym for like a week and we go ham at the week or at the gym. And we often do this coming out of New Year's. We're like, yep, I'm going to work out. I am getting at it. And we go for like a week and then we stop. And then we go for like a day and then we don't go for like 2 weeks. And then we go for a couple days. And you start to notice that the more inconsistent you are, the harder it actually is to see results and for your body to adapt to that. Because the thing is your body will begin to adapt through consistency. The muscles will start to, stiffen up if we're going and stopping all the time. They don't have time to stretch and to remold because when we're consistent, what they're doing is they're constantly stretching, right? That fascia that surrounds our muscles is constantly able to keep stretching itself, which is why stretching and doing mobility and doing yoga every day is so amazing. And that's how we get flexible, is by doing it consistently. Because when we start and we stop, we're actually sending ourselves backwards because we're hurting our body. It doesn't have enough time to recover and understand what it is that's happening. But the thing is our mind is the same thing. Imagine, if you went, what is the things that you want to get better at? And how is it that you're able to stick with it, even 1%, so that you can get better at it? If you want to be consistent, A, you're going to be better at doing it. And B, your body will thank you for doing that thing. Your mind will thank you for doing that thing. One thing that pops up for me in regards to podcasting is I always say pretty much, I do my whole show myself. I set up my camera, I set up my light, set up my microphone, I record it, I stop it, I save it, I edit it, I upload it, I do everything from start to finish myself. But the thing is if I wasn't consistent at it, I might forget the steps of how to do it because I'm not working my brain. Our brain is a muscle and it likes to be worked. It has that memory that is built in with doing something. If I were to give you, a game or something that you used to play when you were a little kid, you likely forget the rules of it to some extent, or you forget how that thing works because you haven't done it in a while. And that's the thing, is when we kind of start and stop something, we forget how to do it a little bit. And it takes us longer to get to that same spot that we were at. And that's why consistency is so important, because it allows for less of that time of retraining back to where you are, because you're just constantly walking towards something, if that makes sense. So just know that basically my quote for this is 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. That is kind of the approach when we do something a little bit and then we stop, and we do something and we stop, versus just doing something 1% and seeing where it gets you. Number 5, consistency gives you motivation. I don't know if you're my age or younger or / a little bit older, you probably remember the streaks on Snapchat. And I don't know if you guys remember, but when that fire, I remember like the fire emoji that was, or the emojis changed as you went, actually, like the higher you got in your consistency and with your streak with someone, it would change. And it was so exciting. And it gave you that motivation to Snapchat that other person. All right. And I actually remember a funny story. One time, me and my cousin's streak broke and we were at like day 600 or something crazy because it back counted for you. And I remember we missed one time because our Wi-Fi was miscued or something. And I actually emailed Snapchat because I was just so upset that this streak had broken that I wanted them to put it back. And they did end up putting it back. Thank goodness, because that was a lot of work, which in retrospect doesn't matter because I haven't used Snapchat in years. But it just shows that motivation behind it. When you have enough grit and willingness and pressure behind you to do something, it forces you to do it because you will hate to miss. Consistency gives you motivation because once you've been doing something long enough, you don't want to miss. If you're consistent at going to the gym and you don't go for a day, your mind's going to say, hey, we didn't work out today. It's going to remind you. Your body's probably going to remind you, and you're going to just be thinking about it. If there was a week that had to happen that I couldn't upload podcasts, it would quite literally crush me. I don't know what I will do at a time in my life. If something were to ever happen that I couldn't get content out, it would destroy me. But that is a good thing because consistency, again, my point of this, it gives you motivation, right? When you're consistent for long enough, it's worse to not do the thing than to do the thing. Right now at NLU on our team, we have like a fitness challenge. And some team members are on like day 340. One team member is in the hundreds and fifties. I'm veering up on like 80 days. But that just means like 30 minutes of doing some kind of intentional movement with your body, whether that be just a walk or whether that's a full-on HIIT workout, whatever that is. And when I had gotten sick a few months back, I ended up breaking my streak. I was so sick, like I couldn't get out of bed. It was terrible. And it destroyed me to write down that I had missed that day. It felt like I let myself down so much. And so once you build enough consistency and you're doing something for long enough, it will actually give you enough pain and motivation to not want to miss, because it will hurt you more to miss the thing than to do the hard thing. And so how can you get yourself to that point in that relationship with something that you'll thank yourself way more for doing it than the feeling that you'll feel at the end of the day for not doing it? Because your subconscious will poke at you and will say, hey, you need to be doing this thing, and you know it, you know better, and you're not doing it, and I'm not going to let you forget. That voice will get louder, but that voice is also pushing you to get outside your comfort zone and to do the things you don't want to do, but you know that you need to do. Number 6, consistency allows for more clarity. So with consistency, there's a desire to really do better and to improve. It's almost like, well, if I'm doing this thing, I might as well keep improving it. And the thing that I think of with this is, my intro's changed like 3 or 4 times since I started. My outro has changed. My music has changed. My midsection of where I plug in my coaching has changed. My picture has changed. My name has changed. There's been so many things that have changed, but that piece, consistency allows for more clarity, is in the beginning, I was just block 1. I was just, level 1, starting with something, starting with the name I felt called to, doing an intro I felt, was right at the time, and then kind of building from there. But consistency gives you that permission to stack those layers, to level up, to put that new block on top, and to get better, to improve, to shift, to learn, to adapt, and to improve as you go. But oftentimes we get so stuck at level 1 of what that thing needs to be that we're not even allowing consistency and the compound effect to kick in, because we're just so hyper focused on what our name is going to be, what our brand is going to be, what we're going to talk about. We get so caught up in the details that we're not recognizing that by just being consistent, you are improving. By being consistent, you will get more clarity, you will get more answers, but you have to be willing to start. So that is number 6, you guys, is that consistency allows for more clarity. And number 7, you guys probably knew this one was coming if you know me. Talk about it all the time. It's the book behind me, Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Consistency will compound. This was proven to me quite clearly last month when I seen my number of downloads. And I know that that would not have been possible if I only had 5 episodes, for example. Because I have so much content now, if I even get 10 listeners to listen to my 100 episodes, that's 1,000 downloads. Versus if I only had 10 episodes, that's only 100 downloads. So you can see how having a compound of things will add up. I often like to think of, in the book, they talk about 2 friends that started a fitness journey pretty much at the same time, but they were doing different things. One of them was being consistent, one of them wasn't. And over time, you will see that the gap between those 2 people gets bigger and bigger and bigger. In the beginning, it's very hard to see the contrast. It's hard to see the difference between those 2 people because there's not really a lot of evidence, time, and effort put in to see the difference. But over time, as one of them is consistent, they're going to keep leveling up, whereas the other one's kind of going to stay stagnant. And eventually that gap between them is going to be so big that you will see it. But we get so focused on day-to-day things that we forget the longevity and the importance that consistency holds on us. We don't really understand how much 1% will compound over time. It's like the analogy of the magic penny. If you could pick $1 million today, or a penny that will double in its value for the next 31 days or 30 days, I can't remember what it is, which one would you choose? Most people would choose the $1 million because they don't recognize that penny compounding will actually be far times more money than the $1 million were in the beginning, because we're not thinking that way. We're not long-term thinking. We're not compound thinkers by nature. So we have to rewire our brain to think in that way. And we have to be willing to stick with something long enough to see that contrast and to see that difference. So just knowing that if you start doing something now and you do it for the next 10 years, it's inevitable you're going to be better at it. It's inevitable it's going to compound. Same thing as if you started something when you were born and you're still doing it to this day, the same thing applies. That applies with money, that applies with habits, that applies with our relationships, that applies with our hobbies, that applies with our job, that applies with everything across the board. Things will compound. And when we know that, it kind of gives us that little ounce of energy every single day to want to just improve by 1%. So when wrapping up for today, I just hope you're sitting there and recognizing like, okay, my goal of today is for you guys to leave and just say, where am I not being consistent in my life? And where do I need to be more consistent in my life? Find one thing to be consistent at and stick with that. Track that, write it down, notice and track. Am I doing it today? Did I not do it today? Did I do it today? Did I not do it today? Have awareness that goes with that so you can see how consistent you're actually being. Once you're able to be consistent at that thing for long enough, then do a second thing, then do a third thing. If you're someone who hops from one idea to the next, to the next, to the next, find one that speaks to your heart and stick with it long enough to see a result. We often give up on things so easily because we don't have the results we think that we deserve or that we should have at that point. But we never know in which the compound effect will actually catch up with us and where we'll see those results that go with that. I am now, as you can hear, I've stumbled my words more today. I've been more jittery than usual today. And I think that's just because I'm feeling so good. And I have so much emotions on my heart and just so much gratitude. But the thing is I'm here now celebrating, feel this good and feeling this proud because we've gotten to this milestone. But had I not been consistent and had I not shown up, even on the days where, I was invited to go places, but I said no because I had to record, and asked to do something, but I couldn't because I had to record. And I don't want to say had to record, wanted to. There's a difference. I wanted to be here talking to you guys. But the thing is we have to be willing to say no to the things that we know aren't serving us to the higher good. We have to be willing to say no to short-term things that are going to take away from our long-term goals and visions. I'm sitting here feeling good and celebrating because I was consistent with something long enough to now be able to say this and to speak this. But this could not have been possible had I just decided I'm not the type of person to be consistent. I didn't make those promises to you guys and I didn't decide to go all in on this. So know that you can have that feeling too, but you have to be willing to choose the hard thing. Choose what your heart is one of my favorite things that I can tell myself. I read a quote this morning and it honestly spoke volumes to today's episode. And it said, life is hard because of two reasons. Because you're leaving your comfort zone or because you're staying in it. And then I throw on the end of that, choose your heart. It is just as hard to stay inside your comfort zone and wish you had done things differently as it is to get outside your comfort zone and learn from it. You have to be willing to choose which one it is that you want. You must choose your heart and know and trust that it'll be worth it. You can do hard things. Trust me, you guys listening. If I can do this and I can go from barely being able to speak in front of a classroom of 20 people to being able to give a speech in front of 200 people, you can do anything that you work towards and set your mind to within reason, of course. You have to be willing to put in the work and learn and just grow and evolve as you go. But know that you can do hard things, harder things that you think that you can. And I promise you, your mind will try to keep you small and keep you safe for that reason. So you have to be willing to push through that. So just know that you can do hard things, you're worthy of doing things, and you can accomplish your dreams, but you have to be willing, my friend, to get up and go after them because they're not just going to fall into your lap. So I truly, truly hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Rewire to Inspire, number 100. I am so excited. I am so blessed. I am so grateful and so excited to be here. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I hope you're all sitting there contemplating some areas of your life that you can be more consistent so that you can raise your self-confidence, you can see that compound, you can get that motivation, you can just get after it, because if I can do it, you can do it. And I can promise you that if you're looking to deepen, shameless plug, your awareness on this, your knowledge on this, and you're just not really knowing where to start, where to go with this, book a free 30-minute call. The link is in the description below. I would love to hop on with you, help you, support you, get on your journey, and see how I can help support you with just taking that first step. If you're not really sure what that first step can or should be, I would love to help support you through that. It is free, no strings attached. So all the love, you guys. Thank you so much. Here's to another 100 episodes. All the love, you guys. I look forward to chatting with you all next week. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.